I like this already? Apparently I already watched this. I didn't even know that. Okay, well, I don't remember this. I would have remembered this if because I just don't recognize this. So basically, last time I did a reaction stream, I stupid reacted to like video about like, oh, I never, whatever. Well, yeah, dude, what a horrible intro, bro. Like, oh, to this video, bro. The point is like, I'm trying to say, I reacted to a video of like, oh, Bigfoot's like Bigfoot video, and I think this is what this is about, is Bigfoot, I'm gonna guess. I mean, let's look at the, I don't know. It doesn't look like anyone's see Bigfoot. So, it's probably a big video about Bigfoot, but I'm getting a lot of comments saying like, oh, you think Bigfoot's fake. Oh my God, you're an idiot. You don't do your research. So if this does get made to a video, I will say that if you have any evidence of Bigfoot that you think is undeniable proof, please send it to me or tell me. Because otherwise, I'm just going to continue being doubtful. I'm not researching, oh, Bigfoot. I'm not going down a huge rabbit hole because, when I just broadly search Bigfoot, it's always like, oh, it's just like fake or really, really crappy photos. And I'm not trying to go down a rabbit hole, really deep rabbit hole, just to find real footage. Like, dude. But, this video could change my mind because Mr. Ballins usually says stuff that actually, like, makes me believe. So maybe this could change my mind.
People have been claiming to see this tall, hairy, ape-like creature walking around forests all over the world, but mostly in North America. That creature is commonly referred to as Bigfoot. But despite...
Okay, by the way, I'm just gonna immediately search this up. Sasquatch. Okay, why is it on caps versus Bigfoot difference? I just want to know. The same creature, but the terms have different origins. Bigfoot is a legendary, hairy, bipedal creature. It's often described ape-like. Okay, so what about Sasquatch? Oh, wild or hairy. This term was Indian agent scientist. Okay, so basically the same thing. What's Bigfoot? We know from not just another name for Sasquatch. Okay, so basically Bigfoot and the Sasquatch are the same thing. Also, okay, I know this says 2017, but dude, U.S. Department of Mythical Wildlife. I need to click on this. Oh, it's .com. Okay, so it's not .gov. So automatically, it's like, eh, this is just not really. Okay, yeah, it sees at the bottom, not any go. Okay, I'm being distracted. I don't want to I don't want to spend the stream just like looking up like finding Bigfoot real stuff. But like if I go on images, like yeah, I mean. I don't know. This is like the closest I've seen to like real proof. You just see this every time you search up Bigfoot. And like, dude, this doesn't even look real. Like, I don't know. I don't know. My thing is that supposedly there's undeniable proof that Bigfoot's real. But like, dude, where's the footage that's like perfect, like really high quality? I don't want low quality footage. I want high quality because at least then it's like, oh, it's happened recently. I want recent footage.
The thousands of sightings that have occurred over the years and the nearly 400 new sightings of this supposed creature every year, there's never been any scientific proof that the creature actually exists.
Exactly, dude, exactly. Why is this so loud, by the way? I might have to turn this guy down. If there's, like, you think about it this way. Bigfoot's been around for way too long, and the fact scientists have never been able to identify, catch one, anything, and we've been able to catch all these other different types of species, that's very odd. Wouldn't you think?
While the legitimacy of these first-hand accounts is very much up for debate, and probably will be for some time, what's not up for debate is how absolutely terrifying some of these first-hand accounts are. And so what I did is I went out and found two of the most frightening encounters with Bigfoot, and I'm going to share those stories on today's video. But before we get
Alright, so I'm going to listen to these with not skepticism necessarily. I'm just going to listen to them and, you know, we'll see where this goes. That's basically what we'll see. we'll see where this goes. I mean, either way, I'm always in good mood to listen to an entertaining story that gets me, hyped up or interested. So I'm sure it's gonna be good.
To those two stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right channel, because that's all I do, and I upload 3, 4, even 5 times every week. If that's of interest to you, I would encourage you to steal the like button's phone and turn off all of their alarms so they're late for work tomorrow. Also,
Damn.
please subscribe to my channel and turn on all notifications.
Wait, so he said all the alarms? Do people actually like have multiple alarms to wake up? Is that actually like I've met people who claim that, but I've never actually like seen it. I don't know. It's so off topic, but dude, like I don't get how you can't just wake up on the first alarm. Like, yeah, I get putting 10 more minutes after you wake up. Sure, like, oh, 10 more minutes and I'll actually wake up. Sure, I've done that many times, but like not waking up to your first alarm is crazy work. I don't know. Come
Don't
on.
miss any of my weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's stories.
Oh yeah.
Fred-
Oh, Ape Canyon. Ooh.
In July of 1924, Fred Beck.
All right, so yeah, I shouldn't say anything, but I'm going to. Any story before like the year like I don't know 2010. Well, no, I shouldn't even say that. 1990. Let's just say 1990. I'm instantly gonna have skepticism for it, especially if it's before 1950, because there's no way you could photograph this at all. So it's just all, you know, past like it's just first-hand accounts, and that could be made up. Like, my thing has always been like, if because there's really no way of like, like there was no like internet, no none of that. People I feel like could have easily made up stories back then just to make their life more exciting. Now, I'm not saying this is made up guaranteed immediately, but I'm just saying it's very possible.
Along with 4
More
other
possible.
gold prospectors, stumbled out of a forest right near Mount St. Helens in Washington state. And they swore to each other that they would not tell a soul what they had seen in the mountains the night before. But literally within a few hours of making that promise to each other, one of the men had spilled the beans at a bar. Very quickly, their story would garner major national media attention and even drew some international attention as well. This is their story. So the week leading up to the men arriving back in town with this crazy story, they had been prospecting for gold in an area they were very accustomed to working in. In fact, for the past 6 years, they had been going to this spot. So it was an area they knew well. And so this particular week that they were out there had been really successful. They had found a whole bunch of gold. It was like this great run of luck and nobody wanted to leave. Unfortunately, one of the men named Fred Beck started complaining of a really bad toothache. Now, they're about 2 miles away from this town. It's very rugged terrain. It's not safe for someone to travel alone in case something were to happen. And so Fred needed one or all of these men to come back with him. None of them wanted to leave, but they were willing to compromise. And they said, let's stay here today, and then we'll leave first thing tomorrow morning. And so Fred didn't really have much of a choice, and so he agreed, and they spent the rest of the day prospecting for gold. When the sun started to go down, the men decided it was time to pack it in and head to their cabin. Now, because these men had worked in this area for the past 6 years, they had actually built a small log cabin centrally located in this area.
That'd be,
so they could
I'm
just
gonna say this. I would love to be in a log cabin. That sounds so just. Oh my god, that sounds great for one day. That's the thing. I would not want to be. Well, actually, I mean, a couple days, but I don't know. I just, I don't know. Just the idea of being a nice, cozy log cabin, taking a nice little nap, getting a nice lakefront. Oh, beautiful. It has nothing to do with anything. Get off. Go, go.
crash out there and continue to work and not need to commute out of the town. The cabin, though, was not built for comfort. It was built entirely for practicality. It was barely big enough to sleep all 5 men. And in fact, 2 of them had to sleep in the same bed, like right against one another, and then the other 3 had to sleep on the ground. There were no windows in this cabin. It was like this awful, like, chamber that they were trapped inside of. But it was sturdy, it protected them from the elements, and it was enough because they were out there for work, not for pleasure. So as they're walking towards their tiny little cabin, they get just outside the cabin and notice a very large footprint, like an animal print, outside the cabin. The men stop, they look down. Now, these are 5 rugged mountain men that are accustomed to being out in the wild. They've had their fair share of run-ins with large predators, and so they quickly said, oh, that's a bear print. But upon closer inspection, as they're looking at this print, they noticed it was 19 inches long. That's way too big to be a bear print.
19 inches?
And so they start speculating about what type of animal could make that print. As they're speculating, one of the men brings up that over the course of the week when he had been away from the group, a little ways away from the cabin, he had noticed a similar, not nearly as big, but a similar print.
Alright, so my immediate thing is, how could there be one print? What? Maybe he didn't say that maybe there's multiple, I missed that, I don't know. That just seems really suspicious. Like, one massive print does not add up. You can't have that happen. Like, if there's a print being made, it means that the ground is printable, if you know what I mean, in theory. So there should be multiple prints.
When he had bent down to look at the print and inspect it to see what it was, he said he heard a whistling sound coming from the forest that was right next to him. And so he stood up and he looked, but he didn't see where the whistling was.
Okay, dude. I'm sorry. The way, okay, that's supposed to be a whistle. It sounds like a bald eagle screeching, bro. Get out of here.
Was coming from, and he thought to himself, I don't know what animal makes that sound. So he's looking out, he can't see where the whistling's coming from, and then he hears whistling behind him. The same sound, but on the opposite side of him.
Bro!
He turns around and he looks, and there's nothing over there as well. And he's trying to put together in his head what animal makes that sound. He knows it's not the people he's out there with because they were way over near the cabin and he could actually see them from where he was. And he starts getting this really uneasy feeling that whatever made this huge print is probably in the woods right now watching me whistling at me.
Ooh, that's creepy to think
And so
about.
he abandons the print and heads back to camp, but was too embarrassed to bring the story up to the group in fear that
Okay, yeah, but here's the problem. How close was he to the camp? Because, in theory, if he was close enough to see the people, then they should have heard the whistle as well.
would think he was exaggerating, so he never brought it up. When this guy tells this story to the group, Fred Beck would say, that's weird. I heard whistling coming from the forest too. I thought it was you guys. They figured they were dealing with a large predator. They decide that it's in their best interest to forego a campfire outside the cabin, which they normally would do at night, and instead just go right inside the cabin.
Oh my god, actually intelligent people. I swear I hate watching videos where these people, like, they're like, oh, you know, there's something chasing me in the dark woods. I can't see anything. Turn on a massive flashlight. Or, oh, I'm just gonna go make a campfire, and I hear noises. I'm gonna keep the campfire going. Like, no, like, I don't think people understand that when it's pitch dark in the forest, it's like nothing can be seen. I don't know why I had English issues there, but like no one can see anything. It's pitch black. There's no city lights, no light pollution, nothing. Maybe moonlight on a lucky day. Like, dude, any light makes you so visible. That's why it's scary. The idea of traveling at night in a forest? Nope. Couldn't be me. Nope, nope, nope. I'm not talking camping. I'm talking, like, just traveling. Nope, nope, nope. Because you can't see anything, but everything can see you. Nope. Absolutely not.
Shut the door because they don't know what animals are out here and they want to play it safe. So they're sitting inside their windowless little dark cabin and they start feeling pretty hungry. And they decide they want to boil some water to make food, but they don't have any water. Normally, when any of these guys went out to fetch water, they would go by themselves. The spring was not very far away from their cabin. They just walk out, scoop some water up, and come back. But because they were all feeling pretty uneasy, and they didn't know what this big animal was that was in their general vicinity, Fred, along with one of the other men, whose name was Hank, decided to go together, and to bring their rifles just in case. Fred and Hank begin walking over to this stream that was only about 100 meters away from where they were. The moon was out, so there was a little bit of light coming from that, but it was mostly dark. And they're walking over to this stream. Then all of a sudden, Hank stops and raises his rifle up at the side of this embankment that was totally forested all the way up the side of the valley. Fred looks where Hank is aiming, and immediately he can tell what he's looking at. Standing a couple hundred meters up this mountain is this creature that's very tall, standing on two legs. It appears to be hairy, that's poking its head around a tree, and it's looking at them. They could only see it because the moon was casting light directly on it, so it was totally illuminated. As soon as Fred recognizes what they're looking at, the creature ducks back behind the tree. At the same time, Hank fires 3 shots in its general direction, and then there's silence. And then all of a sudden, it comes barreling out from behind the tree and is running straight down the mountain towards them while whistling over
Okay, dude, that footage kind of scared me. I was like, what the... Okay, yeah, no, this is really like, no, I don't like this story.
Shoulder, looking like it's communicating with something behind it. Hank starts firing in its direction. It's clearly not striking this creature, but at some point the creature disappears. They don't know where it went.
What?
It's dark out. The only way they could see it before was because the moonlight happened to illuminate it. Now they don't know where it is. Fred and Hank abandon the water idea and they run right back to the cabin. They jump inside, shut the door, and they start barricading the door shut. The other men are like, what the heck is going on? And they start explaining what happened. They didn't know if it was a person or if it was this creature. They heard that whistling sound. All the guys are spooked. And now they're barricaded inside of this tiny cabin, and it's totally dark. There's no windows. So they can't even see what's going on outside of the cabin. And so they just had to sit there and hope that this creature does not come anywhere near them. After a long period of total silence, the men start to feel like, okay, whatever that was, it's not coming back. It's late at night. Let's just try to get some sleep. And so the men all lay down and eventually...
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's no way I'd be able to... Oh my god. Yeah, there's nothing you can really do in that situation because the odds are they're probably stalking you. I mean, let's be honest. If this is a real story and this is a real animal, but whatever it is, right? I mean, odds are the animal probably is trying to hunt you because no normal animal that does not want to hunt you would just chase after you. Like, that's just fairly obvious.
doze off to sleep. Then at some point in the middle of the night, something smashes into the side of the cabin, causing them all to wake up. Hank's yelling out because a piece of wood that actually made up the cabin had come loose from whatever had hit the side of the cabin and fallen onto him. So the group gets up. There's a little bit of light coming through this now, a little crack in the wall from where this wood plank came out. They can see what's happening now. There's a little bit of light inside. They run over, they get this plank off of Hank, and as they're trying to kind of make sense of this chaotic moment, they start hearing what sounds like lots of people running around the outside of their cabin. Hank, who was closest to this little slat that had been created from one of the planks,
these sound effects are just diabolical, dude.
Just turns his head to look out the slat. Because of the moon, there was a little bit of illumination, and when he looked out, he was horrified because he saw three creatures, these tall, ape-like creatures, the same one that Fred and Hank had been shooting at up over at the valley before. They're standing
they're being hunted.
10-15 meters away from the cabin, standing upright, looking at the cabin. They're holding these small boulders in their hands. And as Hank is looking through the slat, he's trying to get a little bit closer to get a better look. One of the creatures bends down and sees that Hank is looking at him, and he winds up and throws the boulder and it smashes against this little slat. Hank basically falls over because he's trying to avoid this boulder being thrown at him, but the slat was small enough that it didn't go through.
Yeah, okay, if this... Oh my god, the creature can pick up boulders, you're dead. You're dead! There's no way these people live. I don't believe... Well, obviously they did because they're telling the story, but... Ridiculous. My comment is, even if these were, like, I just want to say this, even if these weren't, like, these ape-like creatures, imagine if these are gorillas. It's still terrifying, like, oh, I just thought, gorillas scare me, bro. Why did you start, oh, dude, no, absolutely not. They're just too alpha, I guess, is the way to describe it. It sounds so cringe to say it like that, but, like, they're way too aggressive and, like, territorial. Anyway, they're off topic.
Telling the rest of the men that there's three of them. There's three of them. They're right there. The men are grabbing their rifles. They're getting ready to aim out of the slat to try to take a shot at one of these creatures. But by the time they have a sight picture, there's no one out there. Except they hear these footsteps and they start hearing whistling coming from the other sides of the cabin where they have no way to see.
Dude. Stop with the eagle screeches. I know it's supposed to be whistling. That's not whistling.
Going on because there's no windows and that gap in the cabin was only facing one way, and so they just sit there in silence as they hear all this whistling and footsteps and shuffling happening outside of their cabin. Then all of a sudden they hear slamming against the one door that leads into the cabin. They had barricaded the door already, so they go up and they're pressing back against the barricade as whatever is outside is trying to break into the cabin, but it can't get through the barricade. When they couldn't break in the front door, there was a barrage of these boulders smashing into the cabin. Now, these men had built the cabin. They knew it was sturdy, but they didn't know if it could withstand boulders hitting it. And so for hours, these rocks and boulders are smashing into the cabin. They never see them again through that slat. They kept periodically looking, and there was never any creatures that were on that side. It was like the creatures knew that they could be seen on that side, but couldn't be seen elsewhere.
Dude,
Finally,
yeah, these guys are intelligent.
And they sit down in the middle of the cabin. Fred was sitting in such a way that he could actually see the slat in the cabin that was now open and exposed. And as he's sitting there, Fred is horrified when he sees a hand slide into the cabin. A hairy, big ape hand that reaches in and starts fumbling around, grabs hold of an axe that was leaning up against the inside of the cabin. And as it's getting ready to pull it out, Fred runs over and twists the axe so it won't slide through the slat. And so the creature's slamming the axe, trying to get it out at the same time that Hank takes a shot and shoots right through the slat. The creature releases it and runs away. They hear all this whistling very close to their cabin, which made them realize that they had just been quietly waiting outside of their cabin. They had never left. But after Hank had taken that shot at the thing's hand, it sounded like almost a stampede was running away off into the forest. And at that point, the group was fairly certain that it was done. The next morning, when they saw through that slat in their cabin that the sun had finally come up, the men packed only the bare necessities. They got their weapons. When they finally opened up that door, all over the ground, all around the cabin were these rocks that clearly had been thrown at the cabin.
Dang.
The cabin itself had obviously withstood the barrage, but there was gash marks and slashes all over it. Feeling very lucky, the men start making their way out of the valley, and they make their way all the way back.
Alright, but here's the real question. Were there footprints? And most importantly, did anyone go to that area that was a scientist? I wish, if the story is true, which I honestly could, I don't know if it's believable necessarily, but I'm willing to believe it. This is like, dude, like, what a great world it'd be if there's scientists that went there, camped there for a day or two. Oh my God, then history would change.
And after the story kind of went viral, loads of people went out there
to
find these creatures.
1920, things go viral, bro. Come on.
No one ever could.
Oh wow, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, they said they were there for like 6 months or something. They never saw anything like that until that day. So I mean, it's kind of suspicious. I don't know.
In December of 1981, Mike Wooley decided he wanted to go deer hunting in his hometown in Louisiana. It was a cold day, it was great conditions for a hunt, and Mike had a deer stand that was set up about 1.5 miles down this old logging road that no one really used. He would take his truck and he would drive about halfway down that road, and then he'd get out and he would walk the remaining, half mile, 3/4 of a mile to his deer stand, because if he drove his truck in, he would scare away all the deer. He made it to his deer stand by about 3 p.m. that day, and he'd only been there for about 30 minutes when all of a sudden this young doe comes running across and stops right in front of his deer stand. The doe lays down. And
what's a doe? Okay, well, time to research. Young doe. Sounds like a rapper name. Yeah, I mean, it literally looks like it's, young doe. Oh, it's a deer? A baby deer is called a doe. Okay. Okay. The more you know. Dude, I hate how I said okay.
And it's clearly exhausted, and Mike would say that it looked like something was chasing it, and he assumed it was some huge buck. And so Mike's getting ready for this big buck to emerge, when out of the corner of his eye, he sees something pretty big jump out of a tree. And he kind of turns his head and looks, and it's not a buck. It looked like a gorilla. He thought, okay, a gorilla must have gotten out of the zoo. But then he's thinking to himself, there isn't a zoo around here, and there's no circus around here, so it can't be an escaped gorilla. And then he was like, okay, someone...
Gorillas are in circuses? I did not know that. The more you know. Also, dude, like, where are gorillas normally found? I think it's, probably Brazil or somewhere around there. Gorilla normal... Flexing's crazy. Normal habitats. Central Africa. Okay. Huh. Okay. It's interesting. Probably gonna forget that information. That's a sad reality. Is like 99% of what I'm watching or researching the stream. I'm not gonna remember it. It's just how it is. My brain forgets fast.
Must have put on a gorilla suit to stop me from deer hunting. They're out here to try to get me to leave this spot. They're anti-deer hunting, and so they're here to screw with me. And so Mike, believing that was the case, he starts yelling to them, take off your mask. This isn't okay. This isn't funny. I have a license to be here. You can't be here. You need to leave. Like, get out of here. And so this thing that he believes is a person wearing a gorilla suit just completely does not react. It's just standing looking at him. And it's about 15 or 20 meters away from him at this time, and it's just staring at him. It's on two legs. Mike starts to feel uneasy because he's thinking to himself, if this is somebody in a gorilla suit that's trying to get me to leave, wouldn't
You know
they...
how creepy that is to think, though? If this was a person in a gorilla suit, how creepy it is that they're just wandering the forest, like, in a gorilla suit. Do you know, this, like, it's not, like, I don't know, it's like the idea of being in the forest with some deranged man, that, like, clearly a normal person wouldn't go in a gorilla suit wandering the forest. The idea of a deranged man is so creepy to me in the middle of the forest, because what are you going to do, call the police? They're not going to solve the problem. Are you going to get help? Well, if you're with a group of people, maybe, but like, if you're by yourself, you're cooked. Deranged men is the #1 biggest fear of me if I ever was in the woods by myself, which, by the way, I am not going in the woods by myself, ever. Never. There's no reason to do that. I'm not talking about like, oh, I'm going to go on a trail. No, I'm talking like going in the woods alone, like just wandering, looking for food or whatever. I don't know. Unless there's a survival situation and I needed to hunt, I am not going in the woods alone at any time of the day.
right now announce that and say, you need to leave, they wouldn't just stand there doing nothing. And so Mike, even though he knew it was going to probably escalate the situation, raises up his rifle in the direction of this person to use his scope, to basically zoom in on this person and get a better look. And when he raises his rifle and he zooms in, he immediately knows that this is not a person wearing a mask. Steam was coming off of its face like it had been running. I mean, it was 30 degrees outside. And he said he could see its nostrils flaring like it was out of breath, or that perhaps it was angry. He didn't know. Even though it wasn't a person wearing a mask, it looked very human-like because it had human teeth, flat teeth.
Oh,
that's
human
eyelashes. And just the general structure of its face appeared to be human. And he thought to himself, is this a feral human? Is that possible? Is this a person that has been born and raised in the wild?
That'd be crazy.
So as he's pointing the weapon at this creature, looking through the scope, just totally dumbfounded. Mike has no intention of shooting at this point. He really just wanted to stare at it. The creature roars, and Mike describes it as like a lion's roar.
Dude, these sound effects are just wild. There's no... I guarantee a lion does not roar like that. Like, dude...
Creature roars, and Mike describes it as like
a lion does not roar like that. No way.
Lion's roar. This thing was suddenly really upset with Mike, and Mike believed later on that it was because he raised his weapon at this thing. As soon as it roars, Mike said that about 100 meters in the other direction, he hears this really loud, piercing whistle coming through the forest. As soon as that whistle comes through the forest, the creature that was still growling stops and turns its head.
Okay, see, now suddenly I'm more likely to believe these stories. And the reason why I say that is because both these stories, even though they're 60 years apart, happen to have the same details. You're early? No. They have the same detail of them whistling. So, and if they're 60 years apart, odds are the guy in the 1981 probably doesn't know the story of the one in 1924. That's all I'm gonna say. If both stories add up with the same details, it instantly is more believable. Just how it goes. In the direction of this whistle, and it whistles back. And so Mike, I mean, the hair on the back of his neck is standing up. He knows they're communicating, probably about him. And as he's realizing this, he lowers his weapon and he's looking at the creature in front of him who's whistling and looking in the direction of this way. And then that creature snaps back and looks right at Mike. And as he's wondering what he should do next, another creature walks out of the tree line and stands right next to the first creature. And the way it walked, it was walking like a human. It was on two legs. And they're both standing about 20 meters away looking directly. Your meat size will surprise you. I measured. Why am I reading this? Well, like, dude. Wow. I don't even care about people's meat size. Like, I'm always just gonna assume people are lying. Even if they aren't, like, who cares? It's like, whatever. 8 inches since 3rd grade. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know why I thought it would be anything near legit. Directly at Mike. Mike is terrified. And he would say that he knew that he had to make a run for it. And so he leaps from his stand and starts running towards his truck, which is about a half mile away.
And he said as soon as he did, he could tell that one of them at least started sprinting after him. And he looked over his shoulder as he's running towards the logging road, and he sees that one of the creatures is running parallel to him.
Oh my god, I've seen this footage. And I remember it was what was the guy that made a Burger King foot lettuce. I forgot his name. Um uh, Chills. It was Chills. Chills made a video where he claimed this footage was a Bigfoot wearing a suit and tie going to work. That was the most ridiculous I've just explanation of any footage I've ever seen in my life.
Easily running as fast as he is. It's choosing to stay, 5-10 meters away from him, but running in step with him the whole way. It's like it's forcing him to leave the forest. And so Mike is running, waiting to get attacked by this creature. He finally gets to his truck, he clambers inside and shuts the doors, and he looks out of his window and he sees the creature just standing there looking at him from the trees. He looks in his rear view and he sees that the other creature had also
That footage that looks like something from like 1980s movie, like poor, like, not CGI, because they didn't have that really, special effects.
been running after him on the logging road, that the two of them had basically herded him to his car. It was an intelligent move. Mike believes that because he raised his weapon at that first creature, that triggered a series of events that led to them chasing him out of the woods. He said that he was the aggressor, not the other way around. We don't know if either of those stories are true, but certainly they are terrifying. So I'd love to get your reaction to these two stories in the comments.
I'm gonna be honest, these stories are honestly like a lot more believable than I suspected. Ooh, dude, I want to watch this so bad. Teens terrorized by creature in the forest. That sounds like a great watch, but I have better things to watch. Well, not better, actually. I don't know. Overall, I mean, my stance on Bigfoot at the end of this is not much different. I'm still skeptical to believe it, and I don't get why people are going in my comment section telling me how it's real, you're an idiot. It's like, dude, it's like not confirmed a myth, but I just thought it was common knowledge that's not really real, or at least to be skeptical of it. It's like saying that the megalodon is real. That's how I see it. Or like, oh, dinosaurs are real. It's on that level. Like, it's just like it's kind of very small chance that's true. If it is, it's like, wow, that's a huge discovery. The Yeti is more real. Oh, dude, I forgot Yetis. I don't know about Yetis. I know nothing about them. You should react to my dream garden by Mr. Who's the Boss. No. I'm not gonna. Mr. Who the Boss? Wait, who's that? Oh, is that the? Oh my God, I'm kind of upset about that because I didn't even know he existed until a couple months ago. Basically, Mr. Who the Boss, obviously has a channel name similar to mine. So obviously, if you search up How the Boss, it's more. I don't know if this is true. I have not tried it, but I'm assuming that probably recommend Mr. Who the Boss first. But who really knows? I've heard that YouTube's search engine is kind of like Google's, where if you type in things like long video, it's more likely to put things up like that too. I didn't know that, but apparently that's how it works. So next time I search something up, whatever, it doesn't matter.